very often, I write something down on like a sticky note on my desk or on my to-do list app, because that's where I write down all my ideas too. I write it down, and a few days, a few weeks, a few months later, I'm looking through my desk, I'm looking through the app and scrolling through all the tasks I have, which mostly are just ideas. And I read whatever I had written, however many days, weeks, months ago. And I realize that, because I remember writing it down, what seemed really new to me back then is really obvious now. And what that means is that whatever I had just learned when I wrote it down, I have implemented by the time I read it again. And that's a very important concept, I've realized, for self-improvement, therefore for my journey to enlightenment, which is what I call this iteration cycle. In product development and like software engineering, when you make apps and websites and whatever, your iteration cycle, or actually just for products in general, your iteration cycle is how long it takes you from rolling out some kind of change or improvement. Like imagine you're selling a speaker, right? Your iteration cycle is how quickly you can improve something. So let's say you put the orange on the letters, get feedback, and then change it again. That's your iteration cycle. Like how long it takes you to implement some kind of improvement, some kind of change in the product. I'm pretty sure it's something like that. And that's obviously very important for self-improvement and very powerful, because your iteration cycle, how short you're able to get you learning to you implementing something, is what determines how quickly you're going to improve your life, basically. Concrete example. Imagine you have two guys, right? And they're both reading the same book, and there's one main idea to the book. Maybe it's you should wipe your ass before shitting, for example. If the first guy, and that makes you $1 million every time you do it. If the first guy reads it, and he's able to implement it within hours, like the first time he shits after reading the book, he implements it, he's going to be making $1 million for every time he shits before the other guy implements it. I don't know if this is a particularly good example, but you get what I mean. Your rate of improvement is dictated by how quickly you can implement the things you learn. And the problem is, most people never implement the things they learn, because I put learning in brackets because learning is changing behavior. It's not memorizing information. So most people just kind of memorize information, forget it, and never actually change their lives. But if you want to improve your life, you need to memorize new information and apply it to your life as quickly as possible. And I've realized that intelligence definitely plays into this. If you are smarter, like IQ-wise, like your brain is better developed or whatever, you're able to implement those improvements more quickly than someone who is like neuroscientifically dumber. Because when you're really smart, you're able to remember more things, and you're able to have this like meta-awareness to apply the thing when you're doing it. This is especially true for things like social lessons. So imagine you learn that you should finish your sentences with a down tone. So instead of finishing like this, you finish like this, right? Somebody with a higher IQ will be able to maintain the conversation while still having some mental capacity to think about other things. And then he's going to think about, oh, I need to make sure to finish my sentences down low instead of up high. Up high? Yeah, something like that, whatever. And so you see how being more intelligent obviously allows you to implement it more quickly. If you think your intelligence isn't high, don't let that stop you. You might be smarter than you think, and even then, it doesn't mean like it's not a good excuse. It's an excuse for a reason. It's not a good reason to not do something. For example, since getting into a relationship, I've been rereading certain books around, let's say, purpose and masculinity and all these things. And by rereading them every single week, what I've realized is that in the however many months I've been in this relationship, I've been able to drastically improve in some metrics of my life that really matter to me, in terms of my work ethic, in terms of my mental space and how I go about things, my approach to life, my mentality. All of these things I've been able to drastically improve much faster because I'm basically forcing the iteration cycle to happen very quickly. Because the thing with the iteration cycle is, for some things, it sticks really quickly. Like you implement something you learned very quickly, but with other things, and then it stays. But for other things, you apply it, but then it kind of goes away and you need to reapply it. And so being able to basically like brainwash myself, this is where the title of the video comes from, brainwash myself into these beliefs has allowed me to have a much faster rate of improvement than somebody who just reads the book once and never reads it again, or maybe reads it in like 5 years. Because I'm basically, every time I reread it, I'm forcing, like the book and some other materials, like videos and courses and stuff, I'm basically forcing myself to reapply the learning the next opportunity I get. Which means that over time it almost becomes a habit. Therefore, I implement the new thing and it becomes normal. And that's when I have this realization of, oh, that was really not obvious to me back then, but now I could think of no other way to go about it. And so since getting into the relationship, I'm not saying that if you get into a relationship, you will improve 5-10 times more quickly, which I've experienced. But if you go about things in the right way, you definitely can. Not the other day at this point, but like last week at some point, I was in the gym and I was thinking, I don't really need to revisit any of that material anymore. Like, let's say that mentality, like mindset material, because it's just obvious to me now. It's like breathing air. It just comes naturally. But I still revisited it, and this is exactly, it goes along with the idea of when you could get complacent and you don't, that's when you see the biggest improvements. I could have gotten complacent and thought, okay, well, yeah, I know everything there is. It's like breathing air to me. It's natural. I revisited some slightly adjacent material on more or less the same topic. I just doubled my rate of improvement in like 5 minutes of consuming it. I completely I went from level 5 to level 50 in a matter of minutes, where usually you would go from level 5 to level 6 over like a month. And that's what made me realize that even when you think you've learned it and gotten it down pat, you should revisit it. And that's another thing I've been thinking about, which is a lot of people, me included, read a lot of books, like a lot of different books. But what I think is even more powerful is having one or two or like some amount of really great books that you think are the best books ever written, and just reading them over and over and over and over and over again. Because every single time you reread them, you learn something new. The book doesn't change, but you do. And so by doing that, you will pick up on different things, learn different things, apply different things, and keep improving. But don't reread shitty books, because then you won't learn anything and just waste your time. But for some really great books, like insight-packed books where you could highlight the entire page of like every single page of the book, those are the ones that you should read, that I've personally been revisiting like as often as I can, because that's way more useful than reading 1,000 different books. I would rather read one book 1,000 times, assuming it's like a really good book, than 1,000 different books. And the thing is, most guys won't do this because you get less dopamine from just reading. I basically know, there's one book that I revisit every week. I basically know every single chapter of it now, but I keep going back to it. Is it less dopaminergic? Like, is it less pleasurable to be doing that? Yes. But is that exactly why I'm going to get ahead of the guy who doesn't do this? Also, yes. And so what I've realized is, or the way I'm going to go about it is, you know how in your life, you sometimes get really obsessed about one thing for like a few weeks, a few months, and then you drop it completely and move on to the next? Whenever you become obsessed with a certain topic, like for example, maybe it's the gym, specifically with self-improvement. Maybe you have a gym season, maybe you have a business season, maybe you have a mental health season, like a spirituality season, like seasons of your life where you really focus and are obsessed with a single topic. Whenever I enter that kind of season, let's say for the gym, I would reread and reconsume every single piece of gym content that I think is actually great to really like brainwash myself and go to the next level. Because watching a video one time, you might get 30% of it. You rewatch it 5 times, you'll get 80% of it, and it will just become natural. I'm not saying this for every video. Like the shitty fucking top 10 books, you can watch those things once because they're not useful. But I would say even rewatching these videos, obviously I'm a little biased, but that would be extremely helpful and would allow you to basically, like, especially if you agree with the points, with the things that, like the things I'm saying in this video or in these general videos, the videos I make, rewatching them will basically allow you to brainwash yourself with whatever idea I'm talking about. Obviously, if you don't agree with it, you don't have to brainwash yourself with it, but if there's an idea you agree with, if there's some mentality thing, if there's some thing that you would want to be more like, to basically believe as if it's obvious, then just brainwash yourself. I mean, the government's doing it, capitalism is doing it, so you might as well do it to yourself. And the great thing is, when you're obsessed with something, so say you're obsessed with the gym, if you learn about the gym, you're going to apply it your next workout, which might be in a few hours because you work out 5 times a day because you're really obsessed with the gym. Whereas if you're not really obsessed with the gym and you go like twice a week, yeah, you could learn something, but by the time you go to the gym, you're going to forget about it. So that's why it's really powerful to obsess over learning about whatever you're obsessed with at the moment, and like brainwashing yourself with the most powerful information in that area. And what I think is really cool is, before you basically have a choice, right? On the one hand, you could be like most guys, which are the novelty-seeking monkeys, just go around from book to book, video to video, short, like YouTube shorts to fucking TikTok to Instagram. Do they learn things? Yeah, of course they learn things. But do they actually change their life that much? Not really. They might make some progress. They're applying all these different ideas. But there's no like fundamental change. It's all like little tricks. It's fucking band-aids. Or you could be the guy who brainwashes himself. It's not like very good marketing to say brainwash, but whatever. Not in a bad way. Like, brainwash yourself in a good way. You're literally changing like your foundation for the way your mind works. And obviously you can feel how that's a lot more durable than the guy who just puts band-aids on things. I can guarantee you will improve a lot more if you find one book that's truly great and you read it over 10 times than reading 10 different books. And I'm talking truly great, not some fucking, even Atomic Habits, maybe. I don't know, I haven't read Atomic Habits. It's like, imagine your grandfather gives you a book of 50 pieces of wisdom. You would be better off reading that 50 times over than reading 50 books. Because by reading it 50 times over, you'll basically know the book by heart, and you will brainwash yourself into applying whatever is in that book, which, assuming it's true, which means the book is good, then your life will drastically improve compared to the guy who reads that book, but then reads 49 other books and only takes like one thing away from each one. You might think, oh, but it's still 50 things. It doesn't add up the same way. If you don't know me, my mission is to reach enlightenment. I basically share my journey and the things I learn along the way, so you can feel free to join me if that sounds like something you'd be interested in. And I'll see you in the next one. Mwah!